look at the Obama speech because there was a lot of criticism in the Arab world and here among progressives for the speech. I criticized it, you criticized it, many did. But there were some interesting nuances there, and I want to take a look. I pulled out some of the parts that I think sort of say something new, or at least, despite all the genuflecting that goes on at an APEC conference, which is something they like to see, there were some things in here that were a little interesting. This is the point you were making about the Iraq role of the war, sort of chiding them for their support for it. Let's look at this. This is Obama.
I don't think any of us can be satisfied that America's recent foreign policy has made Israel more secure. Hamas now controls Gaza. Hezbollah has tightened its grip on southern Lebanon, and it's flexing its muscles in Beirut. Because of the war in Iraq, Iran, which always posed a greater threat to Israel than Iraq, is emboldened and poses the greatest strategic challenge to the United States and Israel in the Middle East in a generation. Iraq is unstable, and al-Qaeda has stepped up its recruitment. Israel's quest for peace with its neighbors has stalled, despite the heavy burdens borne by the Israeli people. And America is more isolated in the region, reducing our strength and jeopardizing Israel's safety.
That's the point right there.
Yeah.
And in effect, that was a sort of a bleak way of chiding this audience for having supported the war and supporting the administration's efforts.
Well, I think to come to that audience and to give a very compelling take on why Bush administration policy is not pro-Israel, of course not good for American interests either. I think that was actually a bold thing for Senator Obama to do, and he laid it out there. By the way, he mentioned things that I think also are important to say there. He talked about two states, he talked about settlements, he embraced the Israeli-Syrian talks and chided the administration.
Let's look at that, because we've got a quote about that coming up next. This is about the two-state solution.
Because a secure, lasting peace is in Israel's national interest. It is in America's national interest. And it is in the interest of the Palestinian people and the Arab world. As president, I will work to help Israel achieve the goal of two states, a Jewish state of Israel and a Palestinian state, living side by side in peace and security. And I won't wait until the waning days of my presidency. I will take an active role and make a personal commitment to do all I can to advance the cause of peace from the start of my administration.
I listened to the McCain speech and I listened to this speech, and both got applauded, and part of me said, is this audience schizophrenic, or is one appealing to their fears and the other appealing to their better angels, and they don't know which side to go?
I think you've absolutely nailed it there, Jim. And you know what? That is very reflective of where the Israeli public is at as well. It just oscillates wildly because, yes, when you poll Israelis, are you ready for the two states, ready to give up the West Bank, ready to end the settlements? Yes. Do you trust the other side? Is it going to help? No. People live with this cognitive dissonance. It's not unique to the audience there. It's not unique to Israelis, but there was some kind of similarities in those things, I think. And that's, I think, where the situation is at.
He got himself in trouble.
He did.
And let's go to this part. This is the next part.
This
is where he gets himself in trouble.
Israel's security is sacrosanct. It is non-negotiable. The Palestinians need a state. The Palestinians need a state that is contiguous and cohesive, and that allows them to prosper. But any agreement with the Palestinian people must preserve Israel's identity as a Jewish state with secure, recognized, defensible borders. And Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel, and it must remain undivided.
His audience heard something there, and they cheered. But the Obama campaign is saying that that's not exactly what he meant. But I know the Palestinian Authority issued a statement condemning it. It seemed he was definitely prejudging the outcome of these negotiations in a way that was critical. Let's
recognize a couple of other things. First of all, both of them gave that crowd the important maintenance and taking forward of the US-Israel relationship. Obama also said, I'm going to do this from the beginning of my administration, which is a tremendously important message. The comment on Jerusalem was very unhelpful, very unhelpful. And I would say the following: you have to understand that words matter. We live in a transparent world. This has done damage, not because of what your policies might be after January 2009 if you win the election, but because of the belief and the hope. There are people who need hope, not only in the United States, also in the Palestinian territories and Israel. The Clinton parameters, as you know, Jim, from December 2000, talked about dividing Jerusalem. The current negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians are talking about dividing Jerusalem. Palestinian neighborhoods, Palestinian, Israeli neighborhoods, Israeli. That should not have been in the speech. I think that placed him in a position that does not do him credit.
I'm going to get an Obama spokesperson on to talk about that at some point because I know they want to clarify those remarks. But I want to go to the end of his speech and a last comment, not the one that's coming up next in the roll, so let's change that. I want to go to the section about Syria, which was itself interesting and different than McCain and different than Clinton. Let's go to the last part of Obama's speech.
I also believe that the United States has a responsibility to support Israel's effort to renew peace talks with the Syrians. We must never force Israel to the negotiating table. But neither should we ever block negotiations when Israelis' leaders decide that they may serve Israeli interests. As president, I will do whatever I can to help Israel succeed in these negotiations.
Slap at the administration and it got him applause.
Yes, we've already discussed these differences in where the audience are at. Jim, it's very unusual for Israel to be negotiating peace with an Arab neighbor and for America to really not be giving that support. Not only to not be engaged, but to not even be encouraging.